This is the second P4P webinar, this time covering consortium models. My name is Neil Young and I help coordinate the National Partnership for Procurement Programme, more commonly known as P4P. My background is primarily in the business development and tender writing within the third sector, most recently with a large social enterprise, the Wise Group, headquartered in Glasgow. So by the end of today's session, you should understand what we define as a consortium, the different consortium models that you can use to bid for public contracts, the pros and cons of each model, the steps for setting up a consortium, including how this could differ for each model, and whether or not you are responding to a live opportunity, examples of existing consortia, and the support available. So in summary from the first webinar on an introduction to partnership working and collaboration, the public sector in Scotland spends in excess of £11 billion each year purchasing a very wide range of goods and services. You can identify procurement opportunities with the public sector on Public Contracts Scotland, as well as through public bodies, contracts, registers and forward purchasing plans. Recent changes to procurement law mean that the public sector has many of the tools that they need to help social enterprises bid for these contracts successfully, such as requiring community benefits as part of contracts. Social enterprises, particularly smaller ones, are more likely to be able to access procurement opportunities by collaborating rather than working alone. Benefits of collaboration can include financial savings, diversification of income, and it's also an opportunity to learn from each other and network. Challenges can include loss of autonomy, lack of resources to take the collaboration forward, lack of clarity on roles and responsibilities, as well as a cultural mismatch between partners. You can overcome these challenges through careful planning, using written agreements, and a good relationship between partners. But what is a consortium? We define a consortium as a collaboration of two or more organisations who are working together to deliver services or products, and this often involves tendering for contracts. Still confused? Take a look at this diagram. Think about collaboration as a roadmap. At the one end, you've got networks, a loose grouping of organisations who deliver similar services or products, such as a membership organisation. From a network, you might have a cluster of organisations in a certain sector or geography. Think Silicon Valley in the US, or perhaps the video game industry in Dundee or the oil and gas sector in Aberdeen. From within a network or cluster, you may then develop a relationship with some other organisations, which could in turn lead to some joint working on an informal basis. From this, you may then decide to form a consortium where you see a particular market opportunity, such as a tender that you could bid for jointly. As you can imagine, there are in fact different ways of going about this, and each have their pros and cons. I'm going to go through each model, providing some background on what it is, why you may choose to adopt it, provide you with a case study example, and then its advantages and disadvantages. An informal network is a looser consortium where organisations come together to bid for contracts but there is no new legal structure and no organisation leads. You might think this isn't possible, but in the ESP document, you are required to submit alongside your tender response allows you to submit a tender as a group of organisations without a lead. There will still need to be a lead contact for the bid, but this does not mean a lead organisation. With the informal network model, you could also opt to have a rotating lead organisation if you are going to bid for multiple contracts. Advantages of the informal network model include members retain total independence and control and manage their own contracts. This means they can retain their own strong identity as a result. It spreads the risk between members of the consortium. And it's also often the first step towards a formally constituted consortium. It is a way of testing out the concept prior to formalising the structures and establishing a new legal body, or super provider consortium. Disadvantages include there is no legal entity for commissioners to contract with, so they cannot hold contracts. This means that each individual partner organisation will have a direct link with the buyer, and buyers may find this hard to manage. It does not allow for coordinated service delivery, as well as each of the consortium members are managing their own contracts. Managing agent. This is where an existing organisation bids for contracts and then finds subcontractors to deliver the service. They do not deliver any of the service provision themselves. Instead, they specialise in providing a contract winning and management solution. Think of it a bit like a shell company. It's there to manage the contract and act as the main contact for the buyer. The lead organisation will be the only organisation who holds a contract directly with the buyer. Here's an example. 3SC. 3SC stands for Third Sector Consortium. 3SC bids for and manages public contracts on behalf of third sector organisations. It manages the bidding process and builds supply chains of local organisations, allowing smaller third sector providers to compete for and deliver large contracts. 3SC has built supply chains and worked with more than 550 different delivery organisations across 16 programmes in the welfare to work and employability, young people, criminal justice and disability sectors. Since it started in 2009, 3SC has helped 13,000 people find work, 2,000 disabled people to stay in work, and has delivered contracts of around £80 million. One thing to note is that it does not currently operate in Scotland, and there is not a similar organisation here. The Community Resources Network Reuse Consortium, CRNS, is the national member body for community organisations managing waste resources at a local level through recycling, reuse, composting, waste reduction and waste education activities. In 2012, Scotland Excel started working with local authorities on the development of a framework to support furnishing requirements for temporary accommodation. Discussions took place in 2015 for the renewal of this framework regarding the addition of a second lot for reuse goods. Scotland Excel and a technical group comprising local authority representatives considered the scope of the goods to be supplied, their availability, and how to ensure quality and safety. Scotland Excel then agreed in principle to add a lot on their domestic furniture and furnishings framework dedicated to reuse furniture. The framework tender was then published in April 2016. CRNS decided to bid for a place on the reuse lot of the framework. They took the lead in putting together the tender response, and it was also decided that they would be the lead organisation for overseeing delivery if they were successful. CRNS consulted its membership to find out who would be interested in joining the consortium. Once the partnership structure was finalised, CRNS took responsibility for coordinating all meetings and documentation required for the tender submission. A steering group was then formed which agreed the consortium's pricing strategy and ensured that all consortium members had in place the required processes and procedures. CRNS used an external consultant to help with completing the tender submission. At the same time, CRNS worked closely with COSLA and they contacted all local authorities on behalf of CRNS. When the consortium found out it was successful, CRNS then engaged with all local authorities to discuss the benefits of purchasing reused furniture through the framework. So how does the consortium operate? Fife Council, Aberdeen City Council and Renfrewshire Council have all opted to purchase reused furniture through the Scotland Excel framework. Local authorities raise an order through a bespoke system which CRNS has developed. The 34 items which the consortium can supply are contained within a catalogue. The local authority can select the item that they require, input details of the recipient of the goods, and then an order is placed with the relevant consortium member in the area. The reuse organisation then makes contact with the customer and has 48 hours to supply the item. Once the item is successfully delivered and signed for, an invoice is sent to the relevant local authority. The system is continually monitored and progress is tracked by the Reuse Consortium Coordinator at CRNS. The coordinator acts as the main contact for local authorities as well as Scotland Excel. Challenges experienced by the consortium include completing the tender submission for the Scotland Excel framework in a short space of time. This was more complicated due to the number of consortium members. Developing relationships with local authorities for them to purchase from the framework. Ensuring supply meets the level of demand for the particular items required by local authorities. Factors highlighted by CRNS as crucial to the success of the consortium's development include dedicated resource at CRNS help keep momentum both within the organisation and with the membership, as well as collating the documentation required to bid and ensuring organisations had in place the necessary policies and procedures. External support from sources including Senscott, who helped put together the initial Memorandum of Understanding, and a consultant who supported CRNS with the tender submission. And as a membership organisation, CRNS was an obvious choice as lead. There was also pre-engagement with both Scotland Excel and existing strong relationships with some local authorities. Advantages of the managing agent model include: you are not responsible for putting the bid together. This can be a very time-consuming task and is not guaranteed to win you business. You will still, however, have to provide some material for inclusion within the bid document, and this could vary depending on how big your role is within the partnership. You will not be responsible for managing the contract if successful, or with speaking with commissioners or buyer organisations. and this means you can concentrate on delivery. Disadvantages of the managing agent model include loss of control and autonomy. Not being ultimately responsible for delivery means a lot of the overall control is out of your hands. Financially, the managing agent will most likely charge a management fee for managing the contract on your behalf, which will reduce the profit that you can make from delivery. Loss of identity. You may feel that you do not get the recognition that you deserve for delivering the contract because you are not the prime contractor. There is also no equivalent of 3SC in Scotland currently. Managing provider is similar to managing agent, but the lead body also delivers some of the service and is the main contact for the commissioner. This is a common model used for consortia, especially for a live contract opportunity where there are restrictions on the amount of time that you have to develop a partnership because you are working towards an immovable tender deadline. Sometimes, as a result, you are forced into a managing provider model when actually, if you had time to develop a consortium properly, you would opt for an alternative. This is usually the model adopted while I was working at the WISE Group. The WISE Group is often the lead organisation bidding for contracts, and then it would look for subcontractors that would complement its delivery or to deliver specialist services. It would both deliver the contract and then manage subcontractors' delivery. Advantages of the managing provider model include, similarly to managing agent, a lead organisation can bid for the contract on your behalf, which means that if you are not the lead, then it will be less labour intensive and time consuming. The lead organisation is an existing organisation with a track record and is already known to commissioners. There will hopefully be some existing infrastructure that you can tap into if you are a subcontractor. And again, if you are a subcontractor, you will not be responsible for managing the contract if successful, or with speaking with commissioners and buyer organisations. Disadvantages include the lead organisation has sole legal responsibility for contracts and bears all the risk. The lead partner could potentially bring the provision in-house. There is loss of control and autonomy if you are a subcontractor. Financially, the lead provider will most likely charge a management fee, so you have less money to spend on delivering the contract. Loss of identity. Again, you may feel that you do not get the recognition that you deserve for delivering the contract because you are not the prime contractor. Under the super provider model, organisations come together to collaborate to set up what we would call a formal consortium, a separate legal structure which embodies collective ownership and control. Through this structure, many separate providers effectively become one large provider. You could either form a new super provider consortium to bid for a specific contract, also known as a special purpose vehicle or SPV, or you can use the consortium to bid for multiple contracts. And I'm going to speak a little bit about SPVs later. Core management functions of the consortium are carried out through a central support unit, leaving the providers to deliver frontline services through a subcontract. This is also known as a hub and spoke model. Newly constituted consortia with no track record of trading or employing staff may decide to subcontract management function to a member organisation or an independent organisation such as a third sector interface or other type of support organisation. The subcontracting option is attractive because it avoids investing in paid staff and office space prior to the consortium winning contracts. Subcontracting also avoids the consortium needing to develop its own employment and HR capacity and systems. Another option for managing the consortium would be what's called a virtual hub. This would mean no core staff. The hub function is instead performed by a group of individuals from the member organisations. The strategic development of the consortium business is carried out by senior staff of its members. Here's an example of a super provider consortium. Scottish Communities for Health and Wellbeing. SCHW is a partnership organisation which aims to improve the health and well-being of people in Scotland. It has 75 community-led partner organisations, employing over 500 staff and engaging over 300,000 beneficiaries in health-enhancing activities and events each year. Its consortium approach has 5 different stages. One, identification. When a funding or contract opportunity arises, all SCHW members are invited to be part of a group exploring whether or not to bid. Cooperation. Partners co-design the bid over 3 meetings. Coordination. If the bid is successful, then the delivery team and SCHW meet up to plan delivery, signing a formal partnership agreement. Collaboration. During the delivery phase, partners agree a reporting system and partnership meetings are held on a bi-monthly basis. Finally, sustainability. SCHW monitors progress and reports back to funders. This information is also used to plan for sustainability. Between 2012 and 2016, SCHW was successful in attracting over £300,000 in funding for community-led health programmes. Key points to consider. SCHW itself has no staff or premises, which means its capacity to develop the consortium is limited. Instead, it relies on a board of 10 volunteers from community-led health improvement organisations. Where the consortium is interested in pursuing an opportunity, and if senior staff from each organisation cannot commit to participating in 3 set days of bid development, then the consortium decides not to pursue the opportunity any further. The management and support function is managed by senior staff from the member organisations volunteering their time. And central to the SCHW model is the principle that as much funding as possible should go to the member organisations, rather than on staffing or infrastructure of SCHW itself. Recently, SCHW has been awarded significant grant funding from the Big Lottery Fund to deliver the social prescribing project. Social prescribing links primary medical care to community-based resources and local support services, and is backed by a social model for health. This recognises that good health and well-being are influenced by a wide range of individual, interpersonal, organisational, social, environmental, political and economic factors. Local medical and social work professionals, including GPs and practice nurses, are able to use social prescribing to refer patients who are isolated or experiencing loneliness or presenting with social, psychological and anxiety symptoms to a link person, the social prescriber. The social prescriber will work with an individual to develop a health pathway which includes access to a range of local resources, activities and services, including stress management, volunteering opportunities, formal and informal learning, parent support services, and healthy lifestyle and active travel activities. SEHW believes that the social prescribing project could change the way that primary care is developed due to the holistic approach adopted, reducing reliance on medication. Another example of the super provider model is Ready for Business. So Ready for Business was a consortium of organisations which successfully bid for and delivered the Developing Markets for Third Sector Providers contract for the Scottish Government. The consortium consists of CEIS, Senscot, and Social Firm Scotland, as well as the law firm Roberts and Sustainable Procurement Limited. It was set up as a separate legal structure in the form of a limited liability partnership. The partners and other specialist subcontractors brought a unique combination of knowledge and experience of the issues facing the public sector in commissioning, procurement and third sector engagement. And this enabled the consortium to design a tailored programme to meet the needs of Scotland's public sector. It's now been dissolved, and in its latter stages it focused on the engagement of the public sector to promote the public social partnership model of service delivery. A number of its functions have been taken over by P4P, including the hosting of the Ready for Business Third Sector Register on the P4P website. Advantages of the super provider model include it is owned and run by the member organisations, which means it avoids the problem of having to find a lead organisation and with one organisation dominating the consortium as a result. It protects individual members from risk. It acts as a single point of contact for commissioners and clients, making it a more attractive proposition for the buyer when writing the bid. And it could mean you have more bargaining power collectively, a single united voice. It can be, however, difficult to prove your track record during the early stages of the consortium's development. This can give you difficulties when completing the ESPD document as a consortium. The buyer cannot carry out a financial assessment of the super provider consortium because there may be no funding attached yet to the organisation. Significant development funding and time may also be required during its early stages. This is not a model that you can usually use when responding to a live tender opportunity due to the time required in setting up a new legal body. And setting up a new legal body will require some administration and ongoing maintenance going forward. So you could view it as giving you more work. The new legal body will need a board and will need to submit returns and accounts. A consortium cooperative is another type of consortium model which organisations can consider. A consortium cooperative is an organisation run in a shared and equal way by and for the benefit of its members. Members are businesses, and the cooperative may be for any purpose which supports the members, for example, marketing, tendering, innovation or exporting. Cooperatives are increasingly being used to bid for contracts individual members could not win alone. So running costs are often met by retaining a small percentage of the value of members' trade, meaning that members contribute in proportion with usage. The first step is to create the consortium itself, which is usually a company limited by guarantee. This means that each member owns the consortium cooperative equally. The ground rules for the consortium are set out in a members' agreement. The agreement includes the members' obligations to the consortium and vice versa. It's usually a short, simple document and can be changed by the members at any time. There are no legal restrictions on who can be a member, and there are no restrictions on size. Consortium cooperatives can bid for and deliver contracts as a single supplier, receiving payments on behalf of members through invoicing. Here's an example. The Scottish Mountain Bike Consortium is a group of private sector organisations where mountain biking is part of their core business. The goal of the consortium is to make their local area the best destination for mountain biking. Collaborating has enabled the Scottish Mountain Bike Consortium to win significant tenders, including the contract to organise and host the Angus Mountain Biking Festival. Cooperative Development Scotland provided specialist support to form the company. The consortium won the CDS Collaborative Prize in 2013, which enabled them to develop a new website and invest in new facilities. Many of the benefits of forming a consortium cooperative are similar to that of the super provider model. For example, a consortium cooperative can reach new customers and markets, access bigger and valuable contracts, innovate products and services, increase efficiency via economies of scale, leading to increased revenues and profits, reduced costs, and increased productivity. Disadvantages can include: it can be difficult to prove your track record during the early stages of the consortium's development, and similarly, significant development funding and time may be required, including setting up the new legal body. P4P has developed the Collaboration Toolkit as a guide for organisations who are considering working closer together and thinking about forming a new partnership or consortium. Organisations can use the guide to track their progress and as a checklist, and it has been prepared with 3 phases that follow the typical life cycle of a collaborative project. The toolkit can be used in conjunction with an online questionnaire that we've developed, which can be used to self-evaluate your progress. Once you complete and submit the online questionnaire, P4P will generate an Excel report and dashboard based on your responses. You can then complete a follow-up questionnaire at any time thereafter to measure distance travelled. You can find the Collaboration Toolkit on the P4P Toolkit section of our website. We first recommend that prior to entering into a new partnership that you assess your readiness for collaboration. Ask yourself questions such as: do you have a long-term vision? It might be a while before you see the benefits of your efforts to establish a new consortium. Are you ready to share information with partner organisations in an open and transparent manner? Do you understand what collaboration involves? The fact you're watching this video is a pretty good start. Read through the P4P Collaboration Toolkit, checking out the written case studies on the P4P Resources database. Speak to people that have done before. Secondly, appoint a collaboration lead within each of the partner organisations. This should be a person who has sufficient authority to make decisions and to commit to actions identified. Identify partners. If you are looking for partner organisations, you can post a notice on the P4P Partner Opportunities page. Assess compatibility of partners. Consider each other's charitable or social objectives and aims, culture, governance, organisational structure, policies, financial resources, funding, and contracts held. Could any areas where you are not compatible be overcome? Consider setting up a Dropbox where you could share this information. Arrange for agreement in principle to collaborate from your board. Market assessment. What funding opportunities and contract opportunities are coming up that you could bid for? Establish a working group which sets out your mission and vision and founding principles. Draft clear terms of reference to support this. And then initial stakeholder engagement. Map out the individuals and organisations whose support will be critical to the success of your project. How are you going to engage with them initially? Consider putting together a plan for this. What about an open day, where you invite external stakeholders to view your plans and to provide feedback? It's worth noting that many of the steps described within the P4P collaboration toolkit will not be possible when collaborating with other organisations on a live tendered opportunity for the following reasons. So I've already explained that establishing a super provider consortium is usually not possible within the timescales to respond to a live tender opportunity. This means that you will be more often forced into adopting the managing provider or informal network model when bidding for a live tender. With that in mind, your focus when collaborating on a live tender should be assessing your readiness, identifying your partners and assessing compatibility, completing a non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement, followed by agreeing roles and responsibilities of partners and finances. Your key action when collaborating on a live tender will be pulling together a partnership agreement or memorandum of understanding, and then together completing and submitting the tender documents. The partnership agreement, or MOU, should cover roles and responsibilities, values, managing the partnership, confidentiality, exclusivity, intellectual property, and as well as a termination clause. P4P can provide you with a template and support you with tailoring this to your needs. The European Single Procurement Document, which I briefly mentioned before, or ESPD, must be used for all regulated procurement. It allows buyers to identify suitably qualified and experienced bidders. You can download a copy of the ESPD template on the P4P website under Resources. On our Resources page, you can also find a frequently asked questions document produced by the Scottish Government. The way that you fill in the ESPD will differ depending on which consortium model that you decide to use. If you bid for a contract using the managing agent or managing provider model, the lead organisation will be required to fill out the full ESPD, and then partners who are not the lead will have to fill out certain sections of the ESPD as subcontractors if required by the buyer. Similarly, if you are using the super provider model, then the new super provider consortium, which will be a formally constituted organisation, will be the lead and will be required to fill out the full ESPD. Again, the partner organisations as subcontractors will have to fill out certain sections if required by the buyer. One issue is that a super provider consortium is a new organisation, so it may struggle to pass any financial assessment that public buyers may wish to carry out. One way of getting around this is the option within the ESPD to rely on the capacity of other bidders to meet the test. If you are bidding as an informal network, then no organisations are treated as subcontractors under the ESPD, which means that all partner organisations must complete all sections of the ESPD document, as they will be holding contracts directly with the buyer. The bid, however, can only be submitted by one organisation, which means that one organisation will be responsible for gathering all the ESPD responses and submitting these alongside the bid. Remember to read the ESPD carefully and follow all instructions. Ask someone out with your organisation or consortium to check the information entered. For example, P4P can support this. What support does P4P offer? We can provide a range of support to develop a new partnership or consortium, including a bespoke project plan based on the P4P collaboration toolkit. We can help you to facilitate initial partnership meetings and attend further meetings if required. Support to compile a memorandum of understanding or partnership agreement. Market assessment to scope out potential tendering or funding opportunities. We can support you to explore the range of consortia models that you could use for your consortium. Support to become tender ready and with developing a bidding strategy. An Excel report and dashboard based on your response to the P4P Collaboration Toolkit online questionnaire, as well as workshops on collaboration. Additional support includes Cooperative Development Scotland, part of Scottish Enterprise. CDS support includes exploring the options for forming a consortium, structuring the consortium, and developing members' participation. CDS will cover the costs of setting up the new legal body, usually a company limited by guarantee. Scott Legal was set up to provide support in legal matters to the social enterprise community and wider third sector in Scotland. If you are deciding to set up a new legal body for the consortium, then the Scott Legal team can support you to decide which legal structure to use and with your governing documents. Just Enterprise could provide your consortium with business planning, marketing, financial assessment and management, social media, and the costing and pricing of services. In addition to the one-to-one support and advice that P4P offers, you can access support via the P4P website at a time which suits you. So this includes case studies of existing successful consortia, the P4P collaboration toolkit and online questionnaire, as well as the Scott Legal Guide to Collaboration and Partnership Working. And to summarise some of the key points raised today, the range of models that you could use to bid for a contract include managing agent, managing provider, super provider, informal network, and a cooperative. Each have pros and cons which you should carefully evaluate when deciding which model to use. For example, if you value autonomy and having an equal say, then the best model to use will probably be a super provider, informal network, or cooperative. The super provider and cooperative model, however, can be time-consuming to set up and will involve ongoing administration due to setting up a new legal body. If you wish to access public contracts without the hassle of setting up a new legal body, then you could go down the route of the managing provider model. But if you do this, you'll most likely sacrifice quite a lot of control, and it may be financially not as attractive. If you are responding to a live tender opportunity, then you may be forced into a situation where you need to have a lead bidder due to the timescales involved. So you will have to use a managing provider model. Another option is an informal network, which means that all partners will each hold a contract with the buyer. This is often the first step to a formal consortium. Commissioners may find this hard to manage, however. One way around this is to use an informal network model, but with a rotating lead organisation if you are planning on bidding for multiple contracts. Remember that when you are filling out the ESPD for the consortium, that the amount of information required will differ depending on whether you are using subcontractors or whether you are bidding as an informal network. So check the requirements of the buyer. But thankfully, lots of support is available. Check out the P4P website to access the collaboration toolkit and the range of other P4P resources. You can also access one-to-one support from P4P as well as legal support through Scott Legal. Remember to use the Partnership Opportunities page on the P4P website to post a notice that you are looking for partners for a particular tender or new project. Thank you for listening. I hope you found today's session useful. Remember that P4P can support you to develop your partnership at all stages, and with either a live tender opportunity or helping you to prepare for tendering for contracts. Visit the P4P website or contact us on info@p4p.org.uk to find out more. Thank you.